Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the PureCloud Community's Q&A show. I'm your community manager, Matt Lawson. Today joining me again is George Ganahl. George, how are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. George, this question comes to us from James. He wants to know about bonus questions and evaluation form. This is one that you had chosen, and so I definitely wanted to talk about it. James asks, is it possible to add bonus questions to an evaluation form in PureCloud? Resource Center shows that 100% is the maximum allowable score. So the question would be, is it possible to override the 100% max threshold? Various other monitoring solutions that clients could be migrating from may offer bonus questions like this, which could result in an agent scoring over 105%. And then he links to the article that he talked about, which we always appreciate, James. Thanks for the extra information. George, first question, what drew you to James's point here?
Well, it's a question that's been asked several times on the community, and I really like Leslie's answer on this one.
Oh, cool. So what do you think? Does Leslie deserve a best answers notation here?
Yeah, I think it would be, definitely.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and mark it. And just as a reminder for everybody in the community, marking best answers is a great way to give thanks to people. And it also lets us know kind of like what content you're appreciating and that it was helpful. That being said, George, I know you wanted to talk about this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of lead into the question. And then I know you wanted to do a walkthrough, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Cool. So I'll go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what you think about this question.
Well, the main thing is that our system is not set up to go past 100% for the scoring, but it is set up to allow somebody to have basically optional questions built into the evaluation. So, for example, if there's a specific question that you want to be a bonus, it could be marked as a not applicable question. And that way, if somebody doesn't want to give that agent recognition for doing something, they could just mark it not applicable. They don't have to answer it. And then it's not counted in the scoring. Or they could set them up as conditional questions, as Leslie mentioned, so that if you answer a particular question with a yes, no, or have a group of questions answered a certain way, then you can pop up more questions that could be answered that would give more background or more information regarding that particular part of the evaluation. And that way, somebody reviewing the evaluation can see that this agent did a little bit better than other people. And she mentioned too, you could have a standard set up for your company. 95% on the evaluation is the standard good score, and if somebody gets 100%, then that's bonus, that type of thing. So let me just show the interface real quick. So I just want to go quickly through the interface and show an example, real short one, didn't want to get too complicated. And here we have an evaluation form, and the first section is a question group that's just on the agent's communication skills, how well they answered the call, whether or not they interrupted the caller, and that type of thing. And then I have a second question group called Met the Customer Needs, and this is kind of my bonus area. So first thing I set up was a yes/no question. Did the agent meet all of the customer's needs? So this one is a critical question, because if they didn't meet all the customer's needs, that's a bad thing. It would show up as a critical score, and then if they answered no. But then also down below, if they did meet the customer's needs and it says yes, then I threw in an extra question. I meant to have this one say, did the agent, or how much did the agent exceed the customer's expectations? We'll change that. So in this case, it's a conditional question. So if the previous question is answered, did the agent meet all the customer's needs? It said yes. If it is answered yes, when the person is filling out the form, is going to pop up this question, and it's going to say, okay, did the agent exceed the customer's expectations? And one would be minimally exceeded, and I should probably have thrown in one being did not exceed, and then 5 would be far exceeded. So let me change this up real quick. Did not exceed, and then 5, far exceeded. So it's scale of 1 to 5 that gives them a chance to grade the agent, and then also comments are required, so they have to type in some comments regarding how the agent did on exceeding the customer's expectations. And then if we want to take a look at it, save it, do the preview, and here you can see, okay, communication skills, and then there's met customer needs. Did the agent meet the customer needs? I check no. Nothing else pops up. I choose yes, and it pops up that other question. And did they exceed? And then I can hover to see the notes. One, they did not exceed up through, like he did a pretty good job exceeding the expectations. Not far exceeded, but on number 4. And then I have to type in some comments. So that just gives you an example of how you could have a conditional question that would pop in if you wanted to give that guy extra credit for how he did on the call. All right. And Matt, you're muted.
Sorry. That's great, George. Anything else you wanted to share in the walkthrough?
On this one, I can show real quick, not applicable question. So if I wanted to, instead of making this conditional, I could change it over to an NA-enabled question. And then it would always show up, only if I publish it first. So now with the preview on, you can see that the question shows up right off the bat, but it's not applicable, so I don't have to actually answer it down at the bottom here. It's now NA, they did not exceed the customer's expectations, so I can submit that. And thus, they will not get any points for having done that.
Cool.
That's the other way, Leslie, I recommended doing it.
Awesome. James, we hope this walkthrough of what Leslie was talking about was helpful, and we really appreciated the question. Let us know in the comments if this was helpful or if you have any follow-ups. All right, George, I know you picked one more question that you wanted us to discuss today. I went ahead and brought it up. Let me move over to it. This question comes to us from Nicholas. Nick wants to know how to add new languages in set language. Nick writes, hello. That's how I imagine he said hello. I tried to let my customer choose his language, but after reading some articles in the community, I can't find how to add new languages in, quote, set languages, end quote. We can read, choose the language below, or you have to install a pack of languages, but how can I add languages in this widget? Here, I can only see English or United States ENU English. And then he did give us a little bit of an image to let us know what he's talking about. George, this is a question that you wanted to help with. What advice do you have for Nicholas?
So this is something that I thought was important for people to understand because it can be slightly confusing if you just go right into the interface and try to set the language. So I set up a small example in Architect. Let me switch over to that. So I set up this small example in Architect to show basically the scenario he's talking about. This person has a main menu and they have a starting task on that menu to let the caller choose the language they want to use for the call. So it comes in, plays a prompt, says, hey, select your language, press 1 for Spanish, press 2 for French, press 3 for English. And they started building out and set it up with a switch so that if the caller pressed 1, it's going to go to case 1, which is Spanish. And if they press 2, it's going to go to case 2, which is going to be French. Actually, in this case, sorry. If they press 2, it's going to go to Spanish. 3, it's going to go to French. And the default, if they pressed 1 or anything else, it's going to go to English. But they set it up. They chose Spanish. That worked fine. It's in the drop-down. They were able to choose English, but they went to choose French, and it's not in the drop-down. Okay, what do I do now? How do I get French into the system? That's back at the main menu side of things. So I'll return to the overview of this flow, and you'll notice in the settings over here, there's a supported languages setting. And this is something that it's easy to miss, but it's very important, because if you don't add languages here, they're not going to be available in the set language or other tools that require specific language. So I'm going to add a language, and I could choose French. Nicolas is in France, so we're going to choose French. And now that it's added in here, I can actually set the language to go with this if I wanted to, for automatically setting a language skill. But back in my starting task, language selection, once I add that in, I can then go back to my language selection, and you'll see that I have French in the list of selections. So that was the difficulty that he was running into, trying to figure out how to get that language to show up in the drop down over here. And it all has to go back to the main menu settings or the main flow settings and add it in there. That's just a quick look at how to solve that small dilemma.
Nicholas, we hope that that information was useful, and let us know if you have any follow-up questions. In this segment, what we do is we go to a question that has not been answered in the community, and we ask our expert, George, for his advice. So, George, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on this question. Darren wants to know about wrap-up codes. He says, hi, besides looking at the definitions on the resource page on wrap-up codes, where can I find more information to what determines the system wrap-up? For example, recently I noticed that a series of outbound contacts contained in, outbound, externally throttled, while the definition makes reference to the campaign's maximum call limit on the edge devices being exceeded. It also states to slow down dialing and lower the outbound line on the campaign. Considering I don't assign a particular number of lines per campaign, but in fact allow the dialer to determine this, how can I determine how many lines are assigning to the campaign? George, we're going to change things up this week, and I am giving you 60 seconds to answer this question. Are you ready?
Let's go for it.
All right, your time starts now.
Really easy answer. I don't know. But I looked at this question when it first came in, and I just haven't had time to do any research in the background to figure out where the information is stored. But especially regarding how many lines are being chosen or being used for a particular campaign, I think that would probably be stored in the Edge subsystem logs, but those are only accessible by support. So it would have to be a support case that would be open to look into those logs. And if they're not stored there, then it might actually be stored in other logging that we have in the background. But once again, that would be something that you would have to contact support, open a case, and have them dig into the logs in the background. I don't know off the top of my head, and I haven't actually done the research yet to find out, but I don't think there's anything that's visible to the customer that would say how many lines are being assigned to the campaign in particular.
All right, George, this time we have another question coming in from I'm going to say Arnis. I actually really like that name. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Arnis wants to know about internal calls. They say, hi guys, I've been making a lot of internal calls in PureCloud, and I know that internal calls are not recorded. When I look at the interaction details of the calls, I can see the direction as inbound, outbound. And if I look at a different set of interaction, they can have the inbound, outbound as well. How does PureCloud know that a call is internal/intercom? Additionally, I had a look at the Conversations API, and I'm unable to determine this. Has anyone been able to identify the difference? Any assistance would be great. George, I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock, and I will give you hand signals this time at 30 seconds and then 15 seconds, and then I'll count down at 10. All right, you ready, George? All right.
Sure.
Let's give it a try. Go for it.
All right, this is another question that I took a look at, and another one that I haven't had the chance to really dig into, but based upon past conversations I've had with the statistics people and also just how the system works. First off, inbound, outbound is the direction. When a call is being placed, then the system actually has to place a connection call from the phone to the edge and then from the edge to another phone. So it's going to show up as inbound, outbound, basically because there are two legs of the call. One is outbound, one's inbound to the other phone. And then when you want to see the details of the call to figure out whether it was truly inbound or outbound, you go to the interaction details and look to see who the participants are. There's no external participant. It's an internal call. That's the best thing I could think of.
All right. You got it in a second. Well done, George. You know, we wanted to put the timer on these because we think these are always conversations we can come back to if people are interested in hearing more about the content. You can always just ask more questions in the community and we can discuss them. But we just wanted to give a little bit of help to people who had not been responded to. So thank you for joining us for this week's section of Stump the Expert. That does it for us this week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the PureCloud Community Q&A show. Just as a reminder, we look for the content that you are interested in. So please like the posts that you want us to talk about. Talk about the posts you want us to talk about. And as always, feel free to let us know if you have any thoughts or ideas on the show. You can always reach me in the community. My name is Matt Lawson. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you again in a few weeks. Hope you have a good one. Bye.